Instagram and Facebook will have Meta's own AI bots. They say it's for the engagement. I say that there's a true impact on the creator economy. This is not going to be some sort of like fear mongering type video. I actually want to use this as an example to explain how these decisions and how they're made are very much prevalent, and the logic that they use to apply them essentially follows you whether you're dealing with platforms or brand companies. So I want you as a creator to start thinking critically and kind of like break down the logic and the reasoning behind some of these decisions, because there's enough of fear mongering about AI out there. You know my position if you watch my videos before. I actually think AI tools can help us creators, but in this specific situation, there's very interesting impact that I anticipate to take place and that will affect us, the creators. So I want to kind of like go through it and discuss it. But first, to level set and kind of like catch you up in case you have not heard about this. Meta's resolution for 2025 was we want to have more bots on our platform. They're going to be our own bots, and they're going to help go engage with different kind of profiles, comments. They will respond. In some cases, they even will DM people. A lot of interesting propositions to have those, like, AI friends, boyfriends, girlfriends at this point, right? Like, let's go and extend. Imagine how many people will go out there, think that it's a real person, and potentially start thinking that they're hitting on them. You always know how those works. But let's say the first examples that people uncovered were not ideal, but you can tell what they're going for, right? And this was one of those profiles that circulated where essentially you can see kind of like the profile. They're very openly saying that, hey, this is an AI profile managed by Meta. And the rest of the profile was kind of like filled up with different photos from this AI's family, right? So kind of like to level set and give you the idea of what we're dealing with here. So natural question is, why are they saying they're doing it? So they're saying they're doing it primarily to drive the engagement, which makes sense from the business perspective. If you think about Meta, specifically apps like Facebook and Instagram, the way they make money is by users essentially staying on the platform for longer and longer. How do you get them to stay longer and longer? Besides providing them great interactive content, you ensure they have an engaging experience. And the more engaging experience they have, the longer hopefully they'll spend time on that app, which means there are more opportunities for you as a platform to feed them ads or attempt to sell them something. Plain and simple. So on the surface, makes sense, right? How do you drive engagement? Not many people like to talk to each other or like DM unknown people. Let's create a bunch of bots. Let's let those bots go and engage, like, comment, subscribe to different pages, kind of like let them loose and create all of this engagement. Now, for the creators, the impact can be real, not only because of the fact that all of a sudden you kind of have to parse and understand, am I interacting with real people, or is it just AI bots, responding and commenting on my content? Because hopefully if you read your comments and you kind of like pay attention to the feedback from your audience, you use it to create content. So number one, there can be an impact on that. I'm not super concerned about this because I think there's real business consideration for us as creators and the risk for us when it comes to dealing with platforms that host their own AI bots. And here's why. First, a little bit of, again, theoretical introduction, but I think it's important for me to set the stage to explain why I think the threat is real and why you have to consider that as a potential thing that will impact how you conduct your business as a creator. Let's specifically talk about value flow, right? You've probably seen my video before. If you've never heard, just a very quick introduction. I spoke before about this whole idea and the concept of the value flow. So anytime you enter some sort of business engagement, anytime you consider creating a business, you want to understand who and how makes money in that entire chain, because you'll understand how they think about certain problems, you'll understand their motivation, you'll be able to predict the decisions that people will make. We're in the creator economy. I like talking about the creator economy, and this is one of the core principal concepts that I think any creator who wants to make this their full-time job needs to understand in terms of like, how does money transfer and value flows within the creator economy. And specifically, I'll save you kind of like very complex charts just to keep it very simple. I called it, there are two principles in the creator economy, right? Without these two, without one of them, this entire thing falls apart like a house of cards, because you need the brands that actually go and spend the money in trying to sell their products and services, and you need the viewers who consume content on these platforms for free, but they're being targeted by those brands and being sold to, and they need to buy those services and buy those products that the brands are selling. If we don't have the brands, no one is funding the platforms. Platforms don't have money to run on. This thing crumbles. We don't have the viewers. Viewers are not going out there watching content, not potentially exposing themselves to the ads. They're not buying. Again, the whole place crumbles. So this is the important part. There are two principles. Now, where we fall as creators, but also brokers being our agents and managers, agencies, the marketing agencies that work, we'll ignore them for this specific example, and platforms. We're all just value transporters. You can have platforms show up and go away, right? Like you can have your Vines disappearing, you can have your, I don't know, TikTok's acquiring other brands, you can have YouTube changing different policies and like crumbling. Everything is fine because there's going to be another platform where people will go to consume the content, and that platform will then host the brands to sell the products and services for their ads for those products and services, and the creators will flock to those platforms to go and produce content, right? So platforms not that relevant in the sense of like they can crumble and go away, everything is going to be fine. Same goes with agencies. There are multiple agencies go out of business every year, new agencies pop up and they do the fine work. Brokers, agents can retire, they can come and go. Easy. Creators, we can come and go. There's going to be another creator creating content. So all of us, we're just value transporters, and because we're not critical to the value flow, this means that all of us essentially dependent on the principles acquiring the value, right, on that chain. So that means that the brands are getting their sales and the viewers are getting interesting content and hopefully interesting products and services that they can consume from these brands. Now, when I start thinking about that flow, you very quickly realize that it is a zero-sum game, meaning between those four transporters, right, between the platforms, the agencies, the brokers, and the creators, it's a zero-sum game for us, meaning when one of us makes more money, someone in that value chain will make less money, right? So platforms can increase their fees to make more money, and they'll charge 50, 60, 70% of the ad revenue for themselves. They'll keep it, and then they'll give us only 30%. That means, again, right, they make more, we make less. Agents start charging more money, they make more money, which means the creators will make less money, so on and so forth. Each one of those members, they'll essentially technically in some form of competition with each other. Now, let's bring it all the way back to the AI bots. From the perspective of Facebook, Instagram, creators, us, we are not what you would call it. We're not essential, right? We're essential currently in the sense that we produce content, but because of the fact that we are costing Meta money, I bet you, and they'll reject it, they'll claim that no, this is not happening, this is not why we're doing this, but there is a guy out there at Meta, I guarantee you, whose job today is to figure out from the AI bots who engage with people on the platform, can those AI bots be realistic enough where they become the creators? Because, and hold on, kind of like bear with me on this one. Today, every time that there's an ad that was exposed to a consumer on the platform through a creator, Meta owns the money to the creator. They have to pay them. That's an expense line item for them. The way these public companies work is that it's all about the bottom line. It's all about the profits because the profits flow into the shareholder value, and the shareholder value really means that the stock price goes up. And if the stock price goes up, CFO gets paid more, all the C-suite gets paid more, the board of directors gets paid more, CEO makes more money, all the top executives in the company make more money. So as much as they would love to claim, and I'm sure some of them are all about the artistic integrity, at the end of the day, and I don't blame them, they're all about the money. They all want to make money, provide for their families, buy new houses, do all the fine, great things that we all want to do in our lives. Creativity is not their top priority. Making money and making sure their platform is profitable is their top priority. So at some point, they will continue to look at their quality of the AI content and AI bots and at creators and realizing that, hey, these guys are gals are cost line item for us. So how much of that content that the consumers now enjoy on the platform can be owned by us and our bots? Because for that content, we don't have to pay any creator any percentage. They will, again, say that, no, this is not the case. We value the creators. Creators are the cornerstone of our platforms. We're here thanks to them. That's all fine and dandy until the company starts making less money. And when all of them are threatened because they might lose their job because the company is not performing well, and all of a sudden the eyes will slowly drift towards the creators and them being an expense line item, back to the AI bots and realizing like, hey, we can do more of this. And you will see attempts to feed as much content as possible from the AI bots versus the creators. And you'll see creators complaining about diminishing reach. All of this will happen. Like, it's not a guarantee that this is going to be complete path, because I can see places and scenarios where viewers might hate this and they will leave the platform. Creators will start leaving in throws. The platform will start, hemorrhaging basically all of their value, and they'll be like, "Hey, okay, we're done. We're retiring the AI bots." Right? Like, this is a potential scenario that's going to happen. But I don't think it's the matter of if; it's the matter of when. They will attempt to do it. They'll be running experiments. I bet you they're already running some smaller experiments, and they'll run a lot more of them. And they'll be trying to feed that AI bot generated content created by their own creators who are AI, and then there's going to be some engagement from AI bots and other content to make sure people still stay on the platform, and they'll be like trying to mix in those types of content and engagement within the platform so that the users, who are actually the principles of the value, right, in the value flow in the creator economy, as long as the viewers are still on the platform, and as long as the brands are willing to spend, and Meta can prove to them that, hey, we're not, creating that fake engagement on your ads. Your ads are only shown to real people. So you are making money by selling your products and services on our platform. Brands will be happy because that's their goal. They just want to make money. They don't care how and what kind of content, as long as it's not like some risky, controversial content. They're fine with it being shown against their ads. And for the viewers, as long as the viewers are happy, that's it. Platform does not need to care about anyone else on that value chain. Coming back to my value flow, brokers, agencies, creators, we're just technically leeches for the platform, and we're sipping away their revenue. So the more they can figure out how to keep brands and viewers happy without engaging anyone else on that value chain, the more money they will make. That's plain and simple. I want to make sure, again, I'm not trying to fearmonger here, because there are many ways by which the viewers can revolt against it, creators can revolt against it. It's going to take time for this kind of technology really like set place and become, intrusive enough where we'll start seeing impact on us as creators. But this is just a reminder of why it's important to have diversity across different platforms, why it's important to have diversity in your revenue and how you make money on these platforms, because you want to make sure you stay in direct touch with your viewers and you provide them the value so that no freaking AI bot can replace you, right? It needs to be a real human being that they can interact with. There are a lot of implications and a lot of ways by which we can protect it. But this is like a good story, a good example that I wanted to highlight to say how these companies think. I work at public companies. I work at like massive public companies and like Fortune 500, right? So like on finance teams, accounting teams, I know what kind of conversations are happening in those doors. I was in those meetings with those CEOs and CFOs, and I know how they think. And I don't want to paint them. Sometimes people like to paint, it's like there's some evil folks. A lot of them are very nice people. Majority of them actually are very nice people. You just need to understand the motivations there. There are no artistic values that we might value. There's not kind of like this driving factor of making sure everyone is happy. At the end of the day, all these companies care about the bottom line, especially if they're a public company. That's their scoreboard. That's how they keep their jobs. And from CEOs all the way down to like middle managers, right? So those people have houses, they have kids to take care of, they have family members to take care of, right? I cannot blame them for wanting to ensure that their company is financially stable and they are valued within that company and they make money. It's just that sometimes those decisions will impact negatively us creators. And that's why it's that zero-sum game. And that's why it's always this push and pull relationship that we're going to have with the platforms, that we're going to have with all these value transporters in the creator economy. And to those of you who are like, this will never happen, these platforms will never do something like this, just a very quick one to illustrate this point. And it's been controversial, right? Like, not fully confirmed story, but you probably have heard that Spotify has this problem, and I'm pretty sure Apple Music as well. Just Apple Music is not usually in the news as much. There was this conversation about how Spotify is full of AI music. And then some people start doing some research and tracking, and I don't remember. I tried to find that article, which is interesting. I couldn't find it. Gets me thinking. I think it was either Forbes or Financial Times. One of the major, it wasn't just like some random creator or Reddit thread, right? Like, they basically look at this and at this stats of like, hey, there's actually a lot of AI music sitting on Spotify platform, and they start tracing it back. And what they discovered, they start tracing it back to a few very specific profiles. And as they dug deeper, from what I recall from that article, those profiles essentially turn out to be co-owned by Spotify, or at least allegedly. So all of it is allegedly. They were co-owned by Spotify, and the Spotify allegedly had people that specific job description was providing kind of like production value and figuring out how can they produce music internally with AI tools. And the whole conversation goes, and you can find Reddit threads on this from like 2022, I think, where people were talking about how they suspect some of these like ambient music, jazz style music, anything that doesn't necessarily have vocals, but more kind of like instrumental, how much of it is produced by AI and how many people were tracking that music back to Spotify. And again, one can say, why would Spotify do something like that? Why would they host and they would promote this kind of music in their playlist? Let's think about it again. Value flow. Spotify, every time the music is played by an artist, right? Like someone's music is played, say The Weeknd, they owe The Weeknd and his, companies that he's associated with. I think he's like on Universal, right? Like irrelevant. All the companies that help him produce music and they share the rights. Spotify basically owns them certain small percentage per every minute played, or I think per song played, right? And they have to pay it out. Now, it's very tough for them to replace those like very big popular celebrities, but for the ambient style music, like I listen to it when I try to focus on something or I do work, when I like think about the ideas for these videos. I cannot name you a single artist that I listen to those playlists. I just enjoy it. It's nice and like relaxing. It gets me focused. I like the beat. It gets me in the groove. They have to pay those artists as well. And obviously the question stands, I'm sure, in their mind. And again, there's a person in their company with that kind of job to say, how many of those songs can we produce internally, own rights to it, so we don't have to pay anyone? We can just make pure profit on these plays for our company, and we're not going to make real impact in our eyes because it's not associated with some big celebrity who has a huge company behind them, who has a lot of lawyers on their payroll, right? So those will come after you. But these smaller artists, like, producers and DJs who like probably have 9 to 5 and just like tool on some interesting ambient songs here and there. A lot of my friends do that, post it on Spotify and make a few, $100 every month. They're not that relevant to them. They don't necessarily care about them. They say they will. They will absolutely. And they already came out and rejected that article. And they said, this is all lies. We don't do this. We don't host our own music. Sure, I believe it. But hypothetically, this is too good of a way to extract additional profit for a public company to not attempt or play around with that idea. It's the same way as with any subject. Anytime there's some controversial idea, the best way to decide whether it's like complete, false story someone is trying to like badmouth the company versus, hey, there might actually be something to it, follow the money, follow the value flow, and ask yourself, would this make more money for the company? And if you can trace back, hypothetically, some sort of a way by which this particular project will make more money for the company, I bet you there was a meeting inside that company, there was a board meeting, there was a C-suite meeting, there was a meeting among some of those executives where they discussed that idea and its implications. It's the same way as I was joking with like back in the day about double-decker seats in the airplanes. There were actual attempts to create this because they wanted to make more money. And you can trace and you can say, hey, this is the stupidest idea. Why would someone put people on top of each other in the airplane? And then you realize, hey, they can save twice as many seats on the plane. So all of a sudden they can run more profitable flights. There's something to it. And I spoke to some folks who I know at airlines, and they said, actually, we realistically discussed it and we were thinking about how can we cramp more people inside of a single airplane, right? So again, I'll bring it back to the creator economy. That's why whenever you think about any projects, any innovations that are being developed, always ask yourself, hey, does this help the company make in any way more money? This is how they discuss it internally. Any good company, as they think about products and features and releases, that's the first question. Can this help us retain the money that we're already making, reduce the costs that we essentially incur, or help us increase the revenue? That's all. So essentially, for any mature company, and YouTubes of the world, Metas of the world with Instagram and Facebook, Spotify, they have brilliant people working for them. And those brilliant people run a very tight ship and organization where they will say, what is this particular project? Is it risk reduction, cost reduction, revenue increase? 3 categories. That's all you need to worry about in those companies. And if the project that you're seeing that people allege it and say like, oh my God, there are AI bots coming on the platform. When I saw this, maybe for someone else, they were like, hey, this is just false. For someone who's like AI doomer, they're like, oh no, that's it. AI is replacing us. This is happening. Like, this is not my first reaction. My first reaction is always, hey, can it be again risk reduction, cost reduction, or revenue increase potential for the company? And in this case, when I think about this AI bots, there's just so much potential for them to do the cost reduction in the sense of like potentially ousting the number of creators they have to pay, and also risk prevention, meaning for them the risk is less people are using their platform, so those AI bots help them engage with the users and hopefully get users to spend more time on the platform. 2 out of 3 already there. Revenue increase, they'll figure it out down the line. And I'm sure there's going to be some experiments and ideas on what kind of content can you feed to the individual to the point where you can soften them up for this next ad that they haven't planned, like 3 or 4 reels down the line, so that they're more primed in their brain psychologically to buy something. Again, a whole other topic, but there's a way to do this, right? There's a lot of behavioral economic studies and a lot of professionals who think about this, like how and what kind of content you need to feed in mix of what kind of ads, so you can get people to sell more. Because again, all they care about is viewers and brands, the principles of the creator economy. Everyone else is just a cost line for them, and eventually they'll have to figure out, or they would want to figure out how to replace them so that they can garnish more of that profit. So that's it. Instead of before I make it way too rumbly and start going off track on some other topics, I hope this was useful. Again, I hope it didn't freak you out too much. Again, this is a concerning thing, right? Like for any creator, I think the big takeaway here is think about how can you be more spread across different platforms. Don't overwork yourself, but at the same time think about, can you have a foothold in several different places so you always have a way to pivot? If say like Instagram gets too crazy, can you go to TikTok? If TikTok is banned and Instagram is too crazy, can you be on YouTube Shorts, right? Always keep that in mind. And from then on out, the second biggest takeaway is really own the relationship with your audience. This is yet another reminder of the importance of whether it's an email list, Discord servers, whether it's a free Patreon membership, right? There are a lot of ways to do this, but always think about ways by which you can maintain much closer direct relationship with your audience so that you're not reliant on these platforms. You see it time and time again how a change in policy, change in algorithm kills sometimes some creator reach because of the fact that they were, on the shorter end of the stick basically of that change, and it affects and impacts their business. You, by maintaining that direct relationship with the audience, you have a way to continuously engage, push them, bring them to different platforms, essentially save your business long term, independently of what kind of good or stupid decision the platform will make. So continue to think about how you can ensure you're not fully dependent on a single platform, and ensure you maintain direct relationship with your audience. Do those two, and this kind of news, that will happen. These companies will attempt to do this. It's inevitable. And afterward, there's going to be some other technological change that will again risking our business. And again, we'll have to be talking like this in this video and talk about how to position ourselves against it. But every single time, for a lot of these, for the time being, a lot of these issues, for the time being, the best way to prevent drastic negative impact on us is ensure you have multiple platforms to go to, and there's enough ways for you to spread yourself across several different places so you're not impacted directly in a major way by one of them, and maintain that relationship with the audience. Audience loves you. They value you. They value your content. They will follow you as long as you have a way to reach them in case the platform prevents you from doing this. So that's it. Again, hope it was useful, not too scary. I'd love to hear your thoughts and see like where do you fall on that doomsayer, like, hey, this is it, this is the end kind of thing, or more, guys, relax, this is just a tool, who cares, we're gonna be fine, I am confident in my audience and my content. I'm just curious to see where you guys fall on that. And yeah, other than that, I'll see you next Saturday, hopefully with something a little bit less scary. Peace.